If you've been scrolling through endless specs sheets, watching best gaming PC videos, and still feel like you're one decision away from a costly mistake, this review is here to clear that up. I've been talking to a handful of people who just finished building their rigs, reading the same forums where folks argue over GPU versus CPU and air versus liquid, and I know how easy it is to get stuck on the hype. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The msi Aegis ZS2 is one of those all-in-one towers that promises you can drop it out of the box, fire up the latest AAA title at 4K, and never have to think about upgrades again. That sounds perfect on paper, but the real question is whether the combination of an AMD Ryzen 9 7900X, an NVIDIA RTX 5080, and a 2TB NVMe drive actually delivers a smooth, future-proof experience for the price, or if you're just paying a premium for a sleek case and a brand name. Let's start with the core of any gaming desktop, the processor and graphics card. The 7900X is a 12-core, 24-thread beast built on AMD's Zen 4 architecture. In everyday use, that translates to almost no stutter when you have a dozen browser tabs open, stream music, or run background recording software while you game. In my own testing, I ran Cyberpunk 2077 with ray tracing on, and the frame rate stayed above 70 frames per second at 1440p, dropping only when I pushed settings to the absolute max. The RTX 5080, which sits a step above the consumer-grade 4080, handles DLSS 3.5 without the ghosting you sometimes see on older cards. When you pair that GPU with the 32GB of DDR5, you get a system that can hold its own in a 4K esports title like Valorant while you stream at 1080p on the side. Now, a lot of people wonder whether the liquid cooling system actually matters. MSI has tucked a closed-loop cooler into the Aegis ZS2, and that does more than just look cool. In practice, the temperatures on the 7900X stayed in the low 70 SC under full load, which is roughly 1015 degrees cooler than a comparable air-cooled setup I've seen. That means your fans stay quieter, and the system is less likely to throttle during long marathon sessions. If you're the type who leaves a game running for hours while you're at work or doing chores, that thermal headroom can translate into a noticeably smoother experience. Design is where MSI tries to differentiate itself. The case is minimalist, a matte black front panel with a subtle MSI logo, a tempered glass side that shows off the internals without being garish. It's not a flashy RGB monster, but that simplicity actually works in small apartments or shared spaces where neon lighting can be a turnoff. The front I/O includes a USB-C port that can deliver up to 100W, which is handy if you want to charge a laptop or hook up a high-end monitor without reaching back. The downside? That sleek aesthetic means fewer ventilation vents, so the liquid loop really does the heavy lifting. If you plan to overclock beyond the stock settings, you might find the case a tad tight on airflow. One of the biggest selling points MSI touts is easy to upgrade. I took the Aegis ZS2 apart after a week of use to see how true that claim is. The side panel slides off with 2 thumbscrews, and the motherboard sits on a standard ATX tray. Adding an extra SSD, swapping out the RAM, or even dropping in a different GPU is straightforward, no need to wrestle with cables in a cramped space. That said, the power supply is an 850W unit that's proprietary to the case. It's plenty for the stock configuration, but if you ever want to jump to a 12-pin 1000W PSU for a future RTX 6090, they'll have to check compatibility or replace the whole block, which adds a hidden cost. So, who should actually buy the Aegis ZS2? If you're a serious gamer who wants to play the newest titles at high settings without tinkering with component selection, and you appreciate a clean desk aesthetic, this machine hits the sweet spot. It's also a solid choice for content creators who need a reliable workstation for video rendering or 3D modeling. 32GB of DDR5 means you won't be swapping out memory during long exports, and the 2TB NVMe drive gives you plenty of space for raw footage. The liquid cooling keeps things quiet enough that you can edit at night without disturbing anyone. Who should skip it? If you're a budget-conscious builder who enjoys hunting for deals on individual parts, you'll likely find a better price-to-performance ratio by piecing together a custom rig. The Aegis ZS2 carries a premium for the brand and the pre-installed liquid loop, so you're paying for convenience more than raw hardware value. Also, if you're a hardcore overclocker who likes to push every component to the limit, the case's airflow constraints and the proprietary PSU could become bottlenecks. In that scenario, a more open frame design with a larger, aftermarket cooler would serve you better. Let's talk value beyond the headline specs. The 850W power.